Cheers, cheers, cheers. So what is an eclipse? An eclipse is a form of syzygy when any three celestial bodies that are in one solar system come into alignment. And syzygy, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but it's spelled S-Y-Z-Y-G-Y-A, translates into yoking or yoga. The yoking of planets together, which also in turn yokes our attention. An eclipse is a form of shadow. People in the olden times thought that eclipses were trouble because our lives on Earth are based on the passage of the sun and the moon, which seem to be at risk during eclipses. Think about when we have like a solar eclipse or lunar eclipse and there's this like black hole with like bright sun solar flare rings around it, or usually the bright silvery luminescent moon is like blood red in color. So oftentimes people thought that like, holy shit, like this means trouble is afoot. And usually we follow in life like lunar cycles. Menstrual cycles follow the lunar cycles. People used to plant crops, hold elections, all of these things people would base off of the moon. And this gave order to the seasons, which gave order to our lives. And eclipses are seen as a disruption, things that just interfere with that. Also make us pause and contemplate and reflect life, because it's like, holy shit, what the fuck just happened to the sun? What just happened to the moon? Am I at risk? Is something gonna happen? Like it forces you to pause, stay still, and to really contemplate your life. So do's during an eclipse. Sadhana practice. Sadhana practice is any sort of practice that is spiritual in nature, something that calms your nervous system. So meditation, journaling, something that's good for you, like cleaning your home, like something that's ritualistic and that you do regularly. It's thought that if you meditate or pray during an eclipse, all of the words or mantras that you say are magnified by like hundreds of thousands of times. It's thought to be even more potent and even more profound. Some don'ts. So avoid starting anything new on the day of an eclipse. So if possible, avoid starting new jobs, new relationships, new anything. Like if you can pause or wait until the next day, the next week, avoid doing it during the day of an eclipse, starting something new. So avoid the day of, and additionally, avoid initiating anything 3 days before or after an eclipse. So this eclipse is the 17th. So 3 days before would be the 14th, 3 days after would be the 20th. So for that window, avoid starting anything. And we will have a lunar eclipse in 2 weeks. So same thing, 3 days before, 3 days after. And that lunar eclipse takes place March 3rd. We'll talk about it later. But basically, for the next 2.5 weeks, don't start anything new. And additionally, avoid looking at eclipses. So if you head over to my website, I have this astro guide where I get into the huge story, the breakdown of what eclipses are. I'll give you a really rough version of the story. But basically, imagine the deities are personified as people, the sun, the moon, Mercury, Mars. They're gathered together to create something called Amrita, the elixir of immortality, and they need the demons' help in order to create it, the asuras, the demons, but they don't want the demons to become immortal. So once the elixir comes up, they cause a distraction so that the demons are distracted with the situation that's happening over there. Like there's a beautiful woman dancing and giving them liquor and all these things. But one demon in particular, whose name is Rahu, well, his name now is Rahu. His main function is desire, craving, hunger, lusting, wanting, manipulation, deception, not being honest, a trickster. And it craved and wanted this elixir of immortality. Naturally, it's like, I want to also be immortal. I worked hard to create this elixir, I want some as well. So it disguised itself as a deity. It snuck into the queue to drink the Amrita, the elixir of immortality. The sun and the moon, being luminaries, saw through this illusion and they were like, oh shit, that's a demon. However, Rahu had already drank some of the elixir, but once the sun and the moon realized a demon was there drinking the elixir, they ordered its head to be removed. So it was beheaded. However, since it drank the Amrita, it was already immortal. So all that happened was it divided into two separate parts. Its head, Rahu, and its tail, Ketu. And the head of Rahu is like the hunger, craving, chasing, desire. And the tail is all about like detachment, enlightenment, letting go. This solar eclipse will take place with the head, Rahu, the craving. So back to the story. In its rage at being beheaded, Rahu swallowed the sun and the moon whole. However, since it didn't have a body, the sun and the moon pass through, and that's where we get eclipses from. So don't stare at them. It's also interesting how certain people who have very interesting things about them were born during eclipses. A certain orange man was born during an eclipse. A certain unibrowed, compulsive, nose-picking, nail-biting, wearing an arm in his sling serial killer from the 70s driving a Volkswagen, played by Zac Efron in a movie, was born during an eclipse. Right. Don't stare at them. So grahana is the Sanskrit term for eclipse, and it means to seize or to grasp. It's when the sun and the moon are seized by the nodes being the north and the south node of the moon, the north node being Rahu, the south node being Ketu. Eclipses only happen during a full or a new moon. And it's a feeling of the moon devouring the sun. That's a solar eclipse. That's what we're going to experience. And a new moon occurs when the moon is between the earth and the sun. And a solar eclipse is when the moon blocks the sun and has like a narrow path, a window. An eclipse season typically are always 2 weeks apart. So we'll have a solar eclipse, and then in 2 weeks we'll have a lunar eclipse, or vice versa. And then 6 months from then, we'll have that same cycle, a solar and a lunar eclipse. So they always happen twice a year, solar and lunar, 6 months apart, 2 weeks between the cycles. So the phases of a solar eclipse that occur, and I'm just gonna say, I love myself with my little notes here. We have first contact, which is when the edge of the moon starts to overlap the edge of the sun. This is when the eclipse begins. And for us, specifically, this will start at 4:56 a.m. This eclipse will not be visible in New York, but just know it still is happening, but it is starting. Second contact is when the moon covers the entire disk of the sun. This is when the total eclipse begins. And then totality, the maximum phase of the total solar eclipse, is when the sun is completely covered. And that will take place officially on the 17th of February at 7:11 a.m. We'll go into third contact when the moon starts moving away, parts of the sun's disk reappear. And then the fourth contact, the moon stops covering the sun, the eclipse ends, and the official ending is 9:27 a.m. This is all Eastern Standard Time. So from 4:56 a.m. to 9:27 a.m., we're in this total solar eclipse window. Again, this is Eastern Standard Time, and it is not visible in our region of this northern hemisphere. And so for this eclipse, we will have the sun and the moon involved, obviously at 4 degrees and 42 minutes of Aquarius, specifically in the nakshatra of Dhanishta. And Dhanishta nakshatra is represented by the symbol of a drum. The sun and the moon will be at 4 degrees and 42 minutes of Aquarius. And this will make this be a partial solar eclipse because it's within 12 to 15 degrees and 30 minutes of the eclipse zone. So it's not a total solar eclipse, but it's still significant. And this involves basically literally every single planet, which doesn't often happen during eclipses, but every graha is involved. Graha means planet. So the sun and the moon, obviously. And not only that, we're going to be in an Aquarius lagna, or rising Aquarius. So while this is also taking place in Aquarius, it will be an Aquarius ascendant when this eclipse is taking place. And we will have Venus in Aquarius, Mercury in Aquarius. The sun and the moon will be in what's called Dhanishta nakshatra for this eclipse cycle. And Dhanishta nakshatra, the marker stars that we use are Alpha Delphini or Beta Aquarii. And the common or Arabic name, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, is Salicin. And then Beta Aquarii, the common name is Sidal Sund. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. And we call Dhanishta the star of organization and leadership, and its symbol is a drum. So we get this pratima of just like rhythmic moving forward at a steady beat. Ancient societies used to communicate with drums. It would be used for rituals, used to signify war, used to maintain rhythm while working together, marching to drum beats. And drums ultimately enclose space, and this can drive us to kind of want to fill that space. Like what do we want to fill? It creates this hunger, this vacuum. And what do we want to march to the beat of our own drum to fill that void with? So not only are the sun and the moon in Dhanishta nakshatra, but Mars will be in Dhanishta nakshatra, and Mars technically will still be in Capricorn, but Dhanishta nakshatra takes place, it like straddles between Capricorn and Aquarius. So Mars will also be involved in this, and Jupiter, by its 9th aspect in Gemini, 9 houses away, will be aspecting this eclipse, and then the whole thing is wrapped up in a Saturn constellation in Aquarius. So every single planet is involved in this eclipse, which is bananas foster crazy. So some of the key symbolisms and things of Dhanishta nakshatra are leadership and governance. So kings, they govern things. They use the beat of their own drum to call their armies into action. They pioneer, they summon courage, they trailblaze, they're innovative, crossing new frontiers, which is very symbolic also of new moons. Even though we're not supposed to start anything new, but still like just sudden changes that can invoke entering a new phase of life. There's also something to voice skills and singing, because usually with rhythm, there may even come a little bit of singing or chanting. This nakshatra is associated with riches and legacy. So money, prosperity, property, gains from ancestors, from your elders, ancestral knowledge, that could be a legacy. So even getting told something from family, passing down in oral traditions, things that your family leave behind, and also traveling, and also just based on like some like mythology, but issues in relationships, issues with partners. So back to some of the planets that are involved. So Rahu, some of the desirable themes that come about from an eclipse that's happening with Rahu: originality, individuality, independence, insight, ingenuity. You know, it thought to disguise itself as a deity in order to get this elixir. Inspiration, imagination, creative thinking. Some undesirable traits of this placement: confusion, escapism, deception, addiction, delusion, illusion, psychosis, neurosis, anxiety. So when evaluating eclipses, in order to see how it's going to affect you, because sure, I'm talking about how Mercury's involved, and Venus and Rahu and the sun and the moon and Jupiter, all these various things. You know, Mercury governs our speech, so be mindful of what we say during eclipses. Mars is there adding passion and heat and anger and conflict. Venus is there being clouded. Our compassion could be clouded. Our sweetness could be clouded a little bit. But some of the general potential palakarma, the potential outcomes for eclipses, are sudden and unexpected events. They're always just like, oh, everything is different now. A shift has occurred, and it's an irrevocable shift. It's just being completely different. It's like, let me tell you a story about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I like that shit. There is a manas disturbance. Manas, like a loose translation, is like your emotional thinking mind, like your feelings, your mental health in a way. The moon rules that. The moon is greatly disturbed during eclipses. Again, the Cheeto in chief born during an eclipse. And also how psychotic that whenever there's an eclipse, homie stares at them, looking at his demon counterparts. But it causes extreme manas disturbance. That's why one of the recommendations is to just stay inside, do your meditations, do your prayers, do your journaling, avoid conflict, arguing with people, avoid negative thoughts, avoid sad music. This is not the time to listen to some mopey, sad boy, sad girl shit. Like, no. Do things that uplift you. Extreme ups and downs, being eccentric, being an oddball, being very reactive, being a little delusional. But overall, eclipses bring about a more eventful and a more impactful life. And this eclipse also takes place the day of the Chinese Lunar New Year, when we move from the year of the wood snake into the year of the fire horse. So not only is there a solar eclipse happening on the 17th, but the Chinese Lunar New Year is on the 17th. Ramadan begins on the 17th. Lent begins on the 18th. Right. So lots of changes, and the best way, okay, sure, we wanna know like, how is this going to affect us? We're talking about all these planets, all these things. It really, really depends on where it's happening in your chart. This is all taking place, including the Lagna, the rising sign, in Aquarius. So for those of you who are rising Aquarius, who have your moon in Aquarius, your sun in Aquarius, again, based off of Vedic tradition, because Western astrology does not factor in the ecliptic, which is Earth's wobble, and that shifts 1 degree every 72 years. So technically Western calculations are off by 24 degrees. I grew up thinking I was a sun Pisces. I am not, I'm a sun Aquarius. Gonna be feeling this. And even right now, like, I think Western astrology is saying that Saturn is going to be moving into Aries this week. It's not, like, not even close. Saturn is only at 6 degrees of Pisces. Here is an image from Stellarium. It's a telescope app. You can literally just type in Saturn and see where it is right now. This app isn't using any special calculations. It's literally just a telescope app to like look up. You can literally yourself go get a telescope and look into the sky. So I don't know why the Western girlies still want to say that, because those of you who have your Saturn natally when you're born in Pisces, you are in your Saturn return. So please don't think that your Saturn return is going to be ending in a couple of days or weeks. You're still in it for the next 2.5 years. Right. Right. Yeah. If you want to know more, feel free, link in the bio, my website, all that jazz. We can do a reading, but it really does depend on where the eclipse is taking place. So for those of you who are rising Aquarius, like, you're definitely going to feel it strongly, but the house placements really matter. If it's happening in your first house, you can expect some changes surrounding you, your physical body, your health, your vitality, how the world perceives you. Second house could be your finances, your speech, your communication, your diet. Third house could be something with your siblings, your sense of courage, your sense of entrepreneurship. Fourth house could be your home life, education, your mental health, your mom. Fifth house could be your creativity, your children, your sexual desires. Sixth could be your routines, your habits. Seventh, your relationships. Eighth, things with the law, things with the occult, things with your health. Ninth, your good luck, your fortune, your traveling, your teachers. 10th, career. 11th, some good luck and gains, your social circles, your friends. And 12th, ending of things, traveling, death. It really depends on what house it's taking place in your specific chart in this tradition. It depends on where the other planets are for you natally, what's going on. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a little snake emoji in the comments to let me and others know that you made it here. And please go watch the accompanying tarot video that corresponds with this. I do a lovely tarot spread where the universe had some shit to say. The cards had some things to say about this eclipse. So please go check that out. It's all linked in the bio. Remember to subscribe, like, do the whole 9 yards. And if you want even more, head on over to patreon.com/thebaristawitch, where you have 2 options to join me in this endeavor to understand what the fuck is happening with the stars. At tier 1, the Cafe Coven, for $5 a month, every single week I do expanded tarot spreads where whatever is on YouTube, it's the full version. We really get into it, get into details, some bonus videos here and there, getting into exactly what's happening, all ad free. And for tier 2, you can join the Arcana Academy for just $11 a month. I teach you how to read tarot. Every Sunday and Tuesday I drop, and you get early access on merch, early access on discounts when I'm having sales on my websites for readings, just all of the things. It's all there. Go check it out. And I love you. Thank you so much. And happy eclipse season. Stay safe and make good decisions, please. All right, take it easy. Cheers.